My beloved brothers and sisters, let me begin by asking you a question that may seem simple but carries immense depth. What is it that keeps a person smiling in the middle of chaos? What is it that holds a person together when everything around them is falling apart? What allows someone to sleep peacefully when their problems could fill pages and volumes? It is faith. Yes, faith, not just a belief in the unseen, but a deep, unwavering trust in the one who created us, who nourishes us, who knows our pain even before we utter a word. Faith is not a crutch, it is a strength. It is the light in darkness, the hope in despair, and the calm in the storm. When a believer holds firm to faith, they are not blind. They see more clearly than anyone else. They see with the eye of the heart. They recognize that hardship is not a punishment, but a purification. They understand that loss is not always a tragedy, but often a transition towards something far greater. Look at the stories of those who walked the path of truth before us. They were not handed ease and comfort. They were tested, some with wealth, others with poverty, some with power, others with oppression. But what stood constant in every story was this: they never gave up their faith. Today, I want to remind every heart that has been shaken, every soul that has been tired, and every person who has stared at the skies searching for answers, that true faith doesn't take away the storm, it gives you peace in the middle of it. Many of us believe that when we strengthen our faith, everything around us should become easier, smoother, and more predictable. But that's not the promise of life, nor is it the reality of this world. The promise is not that hardship will be removed, but that the one who relies upon their Lord with full trust will be given a strength others cannot understand. While others panic, the one with faith pauses. While others lose sleep, the one with faith sleeps peacefully with a heart full of calm because they know who is in control. When you walk through difficulty and everything around you is loud, uncertain, and pressing down on your shoulders, faith comes in and quiets the noise inside your chest. Faith tells you, yes, you are in the storm, but you are not alone in it. There is a difference between facing the trials of life with faith and without it. Two people may be going through the exact same situation, the same loss, the same sickness, the same debt, or the same betrayal, yet one is smiling through tears, still standing and still moving forward, while the other is broken to the point of no return. What makes the difference is not the circumstances, it is the presence or absence of faith. Faith is like an anchor. When the waves of life toss you in every direction, when the future is uncertain and everything seems unstable, the one whose heart is anchored in faith will not be destroyed. They may be pushed, but they won't fall apart. They may cry, but they won't drown. The Almighty never said you will not feel pain, but He said those who are patient and put their trust in Him will find ease after hardship. So when your soul feels overwhelmed, turn back to the one who created it. That connection, that prayer, that quiet moment of surrender, it may not change what's happening outside, but it will completely transform what's happening inside you. It is not about the storm going away, it is about you learning how to survive through it. And more than that, it is about how that storm will shape you, mold you, refine you, and bring out strengths you never knew you had. When people turn to their Creator in the most difficult moments, they begin to discover a version of themselves that is more resilient, more patient, and more connected. You think you're falling apart, but in reality, you are falling into place. When life throws you into the fire, faith keeps you from burning. When others see ashes, the believer sees the spark that will ignite their rebirth. Think about the people who came before us, those whose stories we hear again and again. They were surrounded by enemies, trapped with no escape, left alone in the middle of nowhere, thrown into the depths of darkness, and yet they rose. How did they rise? Because their trust in the Almighty was unwavering. When a heart is attached to the one who controls everything, that heart becomes fearless. It doesn't mean the fear disappears entirely. No, fear is human. But that fear doesn't control them. That fear doesn't paralyze them. That fear becomes a reminder to rely even more on the one who says, be, and it is. You might be facing a situation right now that seems impossible to solve. You've tried everything, you've exhausted every option, and maybe you've even begun to question your worth or your purpose. But listen carefully. Your faith is not meant to erase the problem instantly. Your faith is meant to give you clarity while you're in it. It's meant to give you peace in the confusion, to give you light in the dark. And sometimes the problem persists so that you continue returning to your Lord. Sometimes the pain stays just long enough to keep your hands raised in prayer, and sometimes the delay is actually the answer, because what you're asking for is far less than what He wants to give you. Faith is not only for the good times. In fact, it shines brightest in the worst of times. When you've been hurt and yet you forgive. When you've lost something and yet you say Alhamdulillah. When you're uncertain and yet you walk forward with trust. This is real strength. And this is what the world needs more of. Not more wealth, not more noise, but more hearts that are rooted in faith. More people who can be calm in the chaos. More souls that smile even when the tears fall. That's the power of faith. It doesn't make the waves stop, but it teaches you how to swim. And sometimes that peace in the storm isn't loud or dramatic. It's quiet. It's the kind of peace where you wake up in the middle of the night, the world is silent, your problems still exist, but something inside you whispers, it will be okay. That whisper is not from you. It is from the one who has never left your side. That feeling is not random. It is a response to your trust. And that is where you find a serenity that no wealth, no relationship, and no status can ever bring. Faith is a light that doesn't flicker even when the winds blow hard. It is a comfort that sits with you in solitude, a strength that makes you stand tall when others expect you to crumble. But it doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from building your connection with the one above. It comes from remembering Him in times of ease, so He remembers you in times of hardship. It comes from consistency, even if it's a small act done with sincerity and hope. That one moment of turning to your Lord can change the trajectory of your entire life. And I want you to reflect on this. How many times have you faced something that seemed like the end, and now you look back and say, that was actually a blessing in disguise? The problem didn't destroy you, it revealed you. That's the impact of faith. It doesn't just protect you, it transforms you. It doesn't just help you survive, it helps you thrive. Now think about this. The doors that seem closed to you are not locked. They're waiting for the key of sincere faith. Sometimes we keep banging on a door, hoping it will open, but we forget that it's not our force that opens it, it's our faith. And not just any faith, not the kind that's on the tongue, but absent from the heart. We're talking about the kind of faith that trusts when there's no evidence, that believes when there's no sign, that hopes when there's no reason to. That kind of faith is a key that opens the most stubborn of doors. When you approach life with this kind of trust, things begin to shift. Your mindset changes, your attitude changes. You stop seeing delay as rejection and start seeing it as redirection. You begin to understand that when something is withheld from you, it's not because you don't deserve it, it's because your Lord knows what you really deserve, and He's preparing you for something greater. Many times we think that the door is locked. We cry in frustration. We assume we are cursed, forgotten, or unlucky, but in reality that door is a mercy. Had it opened when you wanted it to, you might have walked into something that would have harmed you. Sometimes not getting what you want is the greatest blessing of all. Because the door you wanted may have led you off track, and the closed door protected you even though you didn't realize it at the time. This is where faith plays its most important role, in the unseen, in the unknown, in the unexplainable. The believer lives by the reality that the one who created them is wiser than they are. The believer walks with humility, knowing that delay is not denial and disappointment is not the end. Every step forward or backward is guided. Every path, even the ones that feel like detours, is part of the plan. But to see this, the eyes of the heart must be open, and that only happens through faith. When you start believing that your Lord wants what is best for you, even more than you want it for yourself, you begin to let go of the burdens that you were never meant to carry. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? and start saying, what is this teaching me? You stop chasing outcomes and start building trust. And the moment you do that, the door begins to unlock. Not always the one you were expecting, but the one you needed. Sometimes your job doesn't come through, but a better opportunity is being lined up. Sometimes the person you wanted to marry walks away, but someone better, more loving and more suited to your soul is on the way. Sometimes your plans fail, but your purpose is being preserved. And that's what faith teaches you. Your life is not a collection of accidents. It is a masterpiece in progress, and you must learn to see the beauty even before the painting is complete. My brothers and sisters, when you face a closed door, don't just keep pushing harder with your strength. Stop, take a breath, and use the real key, your sincere faith. Turn to the one who controls every lock and every key. Ask him not just to open the door, but to open the right door. And be prepared that sometimes the door he opens may not be the one you expected, but it will be the one that's best for your heart, your future, and your soul. Faith is not about forcing what you want to happen. It's about aligning yourself with what your Lord knows is best. It's about saying, if it's good for me, make it easy. If it's not, take it away and make me content. This is real faith. And when you begin to live like this, you will see miracles, not always in the form of immediate results, but in the form of deep, unshakable peace. Keep praying, even if nothing changes, because your prayer might not be changing the world around you, but it's definitely changing the world within you. Keep trusting even if you don't understand, because the one you trust is never mistaken. Keep trying even if you're tired, because your effort is never wasted. And when that door finally opens, you will realize it was your faith, not your effort, not your connections, not your timing, but your faith. That was the true key all along. One of the most beautiful and comforting truths in this life is that you don't need to have all the answers to move forward. In a world that constantly pushes you to know everything, to plan everything, to control everything, faith steps in and says, you don't need to know all the steps. You just need to know the direction, and that direction is toward the one who never makes mistakes. We live in times where uncertainty causes anxiety, where not knowing what will happen tomorrow leads many people to despair. But the one who truly believes finds peace, not in certainty of outcomes, but in certainty of the Creator. You may not know what tomorrow holds, but you know who holds tomorrow. Faith is not built upon having everything figured out. In fact, some of the strongest moments of faith arise when we have no answers, when nothing makes sense, when all plans have failed and all doors have closed. It is in those moments that the believer turns inward, lifts their hands and heart upward, and speaks silently or loudly to the one who has never abandoned them. You see, many people confuse strength with having control, but true strength lies in surrender. And there is no greater act of strength than falling into prostration in complete submission, admitting, I don't know, but you do. I can't, but you can. I'm lost, but you see the way. Look at the lives of those who came before us. Time and again they were placed in impossible situations. The waters were rising, the enemies were closing in, the resources were gone, the support was lost, and still they raised their hands and trusted. Not because they had a solution in sight, but because they had full trust in the one who sees all solutions. When you rely only on yourself, you crumble under pressure because humans are limited. But when you place your reliance on the unlimited power of your Lord, you realize that your weakness is not a hindrance, it's a bridge to divine strength. Your confusion is not a failure, it's an invitation to connect. Your inability to find answers becomes the very reason you find closeness to the one who holds them all. There is a kind of peace that comes from knowing you're not expected to know everything. Imagine the relief of saying, I don't know why this is happening, but I trust that it's happening for a reason. That trust doesn't mean you stop working or planning or striving. No, it means you work and plan and strive, but you don't attach your heart to the outcome. You don't lose yourself if things don't go your way. You don't panic if the road changes, because deep down you are anchored in the knowledge that your journey is not random and your Lord is never careless. When people experience hardship, many of them fall into the trap of asking, why me? But the one with faith asks, what now? Not because they enjoy the pain, but because they trust that even pain has purpose. Even confusion can lead to clarity if it's handled with the right heart. And that heart is built not by knowledge alone, but by trust. You can memorize books and still feel empty. You can gather all the advice in the world and still feel stuck. But the one who raises their hands in the middle of the night, the one who whispers through tears, guide me, I don't know what to do, that one is never left unanswered. Sometimes you don't need the full map. You just need to take the next step with the one who knows the entire path. And faith is what gives you the courage to take that step, even when your vision is clouded, even when your mind is filled with questions, even when everyone around you says it's not possible. Faith tells you, don't rely on what you see, rely on the one who sees what you can't. Don't be shaken by what appears impossible. Remember who you're calling upon. His power is not limited by your understanding. One of the most powerful things you can do in life is fall into prayer when you have no other options left. And sometimes you'll notice only when everything else has failed, only when the people you relied on have walked away, only when your strength is depleted, that's when you finally fall into sincere prayer. That moment is not a moment of weakness, it's a moment of awakening. That is the exact point where your strength truly begins, because now you are no longer relying on means, you are relying on the maker of all means. Never underestimate what one heartfelt prayer can do. A single tear that escapes your eye while you whisper to your Lord, a single moment of sincere begging from the depths of your heart has the power to move mountains. Because when you raise your hands in that way, you are not asking from a place of entitlement, you are asking from a place of humility. And that kind of prayer never goes unnoticed. Even if the world doesn't see it, even if the result is delayed, even if things don't change right away, something has already shifted, and that is your soul. Sometimes people wonder why their efforts bring no results. They spend years trying to fix something, build something, achieve something, and still they feel stuck. And then, in a moment of desperation, they call upon their Lord with sincerity, and suddenly doors open. Not because they tried harder, but because they finally asked in a way that was real. They finally detached from pride and connected with humility. That's the key. You can work all your life and see nothing, and then one heartfelt prayer made in a single moment can open up what years of labor couldn't. Why? Because effort without connection is like running without direction. But when you combine effort with faith, suddenly everything changes. The path becomes clearer, your heart becomes lighter, and the destination begins to approach you as you approach it. Think about it. What does your Lord want from you? Not perfection, not always having the right answers. He wants sincerity. He wants you to remember Him in your weakness, in your loneliness, in your confusion. And when you do, He responds, sometimes through ease, sometimes through strength, sometimes through a miracle, and sometimes through patience. But He always responds. The one who cries out to Him in truth is never ignored. Maybe not in the way they expected, but always in the way that is best for them. Many times the delay in our lives is not because we are being punished, but because we are being drawn closer. That one challenge you can't seem to overcome, that one test that keeps repeating it, might be the very thing that's pushing you to a prayer you would have never made otherwise. And that prayer, when made sincerely, can change everything, not just your circumstances, but your soul. It can awaken parts of you that had fallen asleep. It can humble you, soften you, purify you, and in doing so, prepare you for what you were always meant to receive. Never think that your prayer has to be eloquent. Your Lord does not judge you by your words. He judges you by your heart. A broken-hearted prayer whispered in a language only He understands is more powerful than 1,000 empty phrases. Don't wait to have the perfect setting, the perfect mood, or the perfect state. Just turn to Him as you are. with your flaws, your confusion, your pain. Come to Him with truth and watch how the burdens begin to lift. Watch how the impossible starts to become manageable. Watch how your soul begins to heal even before your situation changes. Some people give up too soon. They say, I prayed and nothing happened, but they forget that the prayer itself is something happening, that every sincere call is written, recorded, and responded to. Maybe the answer is hidden, or maybe it's coming in a form you didn't expect. Maybe you asked for relief and your Lord gave you strength instead. Maybe you asked for change and your Lord gave you wisdom to deal with things as they are. Maybe you asked for a door to open and your Lord closed it because He knows what's behind it. That's the power of prayer with faith. You don't just ask and expect results. You ask and you trust. You knock and you accept the answer, even if it's not now or not this one. And if you knew what your Lord was protecting you from, you would thank Him for every unanswered prayer. If you saw how each delay was pushing you towards something greater, you would be content with the waiting. If you understood how one moment of sincere connection with your Creator outweighs a lifetime of effort without Him, you would fall into prostration more often. That's the secret many people miss. Success is not just about action, it's about intention, direction, and connection. When all of that aligns through prayer, things begin to fall into place in ways you never imagined. Don't let confusion stop you. Don't let not knowing all the answers make you freeze. Don't let years of effort without result make you give up. Instead, pause, reflect, turn inward, and raise your hands. Speak to the one who knows the end from the beginning. Ask not just for the outcome, but for the strength to endure. Ask not just for ease, but for faith that doesn't break under pressure. And most importantly, ask from the heart. Because one sincere prayer, just one, can do what years of planning, pushing, and striving could never do. That is the power of turning to the one who never turns you away. In life, there will be moments when you feel like giving up. Moments when you feel like you've tried everything, said everything, done everything, and nothing is changing. Times when your body is tired, your mind is exhausted, and your heart is heavy. You might look around and see nothing but darkness. You might feel like you're drowning in problems and no one truly understands the storm inside you. These are the moments where faith becomes more than just a word. It becomes your anchor. It becomes your fuel. It becomes the quiet voice in your heart that says, keep going, even when everything inside you wants to stop. Faith is not just something you carry when things are easy. Faith is tested in the fire. When life is smooth and the sun is shining, it's easy to say you believe. But when the clouds come, when the storms rage, that's when your belief shows its true depth. And the beauty of faith is that it doesn't deny the existence of hardship. It doesn't pretend that pain doesn't hurt or that sadness doesn't weigh heavy. Instead, it gives you a reason to keep walking through it. It gives you a purpose behind every tear. It reminds you that even though the night is dark, the dawn is coming. Many people look at those who are strong and wonder how they do it. How do they smile while facing loss? How do they keep moving while carrying grief? How do they continue to be kind even when life has been cruel? The answer is simple. They are not walking alone. They are held up by faith. They know that even if the world doesn't see their effort, even if no one understands their pain, the one who created them sees, knows, and understands it all. And that knowledge is what gives them strength from within, a kind of strength that doesn't need applause, that doesn't need validation, that simply knows this too shall pass. When a person carries faith in their heart, they can go through what would break others and still remain standing. They may be shaken, but they are not destroyed. Because faith tells them that every hardship is temporary. Faith teaches them that every test has a lesson. Faith reminds them that what is written for them will reach them even if the whole world tries to stop it. And what is not written for them will never come, no matter how much they chase it. This brings a sense of peace, a deep calm that lives under the surface even when the waves are crashing above. You see, giving up is easy. It doesn't take much effort to say, I'm done. But to keep going, to keep praying, keep hoping, keep trusting when nothing seems to change, that is strength. That is courage. That is faith. And the truth is, sometimes your situation doesn't need to change, you do. Sometimes what faith gives you is not an escape from the problem, but the ability to handle it with grace. Sometimes your life might stay exactly the same on the outside, but inside you are different. You are stronger, you are calmer, you are more connected to your Creator. And that inner change, that is everything. Hardship is a part of life. No one escapes it. Whether it's loss, disappointment, fear, heartbreak, or uncertainty, everyone faces moments of difficulty, but not everyone faces it the same way. Some collapse under the pressure, others rise above it, and the difference is often not in the size of the problem, but in the size of the faith. A heart connected to its Creator can carry what seems impossible. It can endure long nights. It can find beauty even in brokenness, because it knows that every hardship comes with ease. Every pain carries a purpose, and every moment of patience brings reward. Faith doesn't promise that life will be easy. It doesn't tell you that you'll never cry again or that you'll never feel lost, but it promises you that you will never be alone. That's the promise worth holding on to. Because when you know that your struggles are seen by the most merciful, when you know that your tears are counted, when you know that your silence is heard, then you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. You don't need to be loud about your pain. You don't need to explain your scars. You carry your hardship with quiet dignity because your strength comes from a place deeper than the surface. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is get out of bed when you don't feel like it. Sometimes the greatest act of faith is putting one foot in front of the other, even when you don't know where the road leads. Sometimes your strength is not in winning the battle, but in showing up for it every single day, refusing to give up. That's the kind of strength faith gives you. It turns weakness into worship. It turns pain into prayer. It turns fear into courage. And over time, you begin to realize that your struggle is not a punishment, it's a path. How often do we wish that the hardship would go away, not realizing that it's shaping us into someone better? Not realizing that the weight we are carrying is making our heart stronger, our connection deeper, our character more refined. Sometimes you're asking for ease, and your Creator is giving you endurance. Sometimes you're asking for the door to open, and instead you're being taught patience. That's not neglect, that's love. That's divine wisdom. Because we don't always know what's best for us, but our Lord always does. And when you realize that, your whole mindset changes. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, what is this teaching me? You stop looking at pain as something to escape, and you start seeing it as a teacher. You stop resisting every difficulty, and you begin to find peace in surrender. Because you know that your story is not random. You know that every chapter, even the painful ones, are part of a beautiful narrative written with care and purpose. You begin to find beauty in the journey itself, not just in the victories, but in the valleys, not just in the smiles, but in the tears, not just in the ease, but in the effort. Because now you understand, you are not walking aimlessly, you are being guided, you are not suffering without meaning, you are being shaped, you are not carrying your burden alone. You are being helped in ways you can't always see. Some of the greatest moments of growth in your life will come from the times you thought you couldn't go on. And yet, here you are, still standing, still breathing, still believing. That's not weakness, that's resilience. That's not defeat, that's victory. And faith is what carried you here. Faith is what whispered to your heart, keep going. Faith is what held your hand when no one else did. Faith is what gave you light in the middle of darkness. And it continues to do so every single day. Even when your mind is full of doubts, your heart can be full of faith. Even when your emotions are heavy, your soul can feel connected. And that balance, that quiet inner strength is what faith gives you. It allows you to grieve without despairing. It allows you to be tired without quitting. It allows you to cry without losing hope. Because your hope is not tied to this world alone. It's tied to something greater, something eternal, something perfect. And when you live with that mindset, you begin to see every hardship as a bridge, not a barrier. a bridge that takes you closer to your Lord, a bridge that refines you, a bridge that humbles you. And yes, crossing it may be hard, it may be painful, but when you get to the other side, you look back and realize you were never walking alone. Every step, every tear, every moment of fear, it was all seen, it was all recorded, and it was all worth it. Remember, faith won't always change your situation immediately, but it will always change your response to the situation. And when your response is right, everything else begins to fall into place. So walk with faith, talk with faith, live with faith, and you will find that even in your darkest hour, the light of hope will never fade, because the one you rely on is the most merciful, the most loving, and he never fails his creation. May the Almighty bless us with unwavering faith, and through it, may our lives be transformed in ways we never thought possible. Ameen.